Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So taking out a fun and exciting video for you guys this evening because we're going to be taking a look at some of the first trailer footage for Night Striker gear from M2, and we're going to be playing some Night Striker as well because honestly, the trailer is about a minute and a half long and I do need to talk about the history of the game. But to say I am excited and that people are excited for a new Night Striker game would be an absolute understatement. I will tell anyone who will listen that Night Striker, in my opinion, is the best Taito 2D arcade game ever made. It's got vibe, it's got style, it's got one of the best soundtracks Taito ever put to a video game. It is just a perfect game from start to finish in my opinion, and I am so excited to see more coming because this game is not very new whatsoever. This was released in 1989. Now in 2025 we are getting a sequel to what I insist is Taito's best effort. The sprite scaling, the visuals, the colorways, the music, the controls, everything about Night Striker just 100% hits, and if for some strange reason you've never played the game before, you 100% owe it to yourself, and you owe it to me personally to play it because trust me, you will not be let down. And just knowing that there is a new game in the works, absolutely wild. M2 is always doing some amazing things, whether it's porting old arcade games to modern hardware or remaking games. They are one of those developers that when you see their name on a product, you know you can be confident that the end product is going to be every bit as good, if not better, than the source material. And I am so excited to actually play their version of the game. But let's take a look and see how close it adheres to the overall graphical style you're seeing right now. And I do love that they have that little bit of kanji in here, and this just looks legit straight up like a modern version of Night Striker. Obviously it is a new game, it's Night Striker gear, and I love how dramatic the trailer is, but I cannot wait to see this running on my 4K OLED in my living room using an arcade stick to play it, because it just feels like the absolute continuation of Night Striker, except it's basically so many years in the future. Think of it this way, 1989 to 2025, you're talking about 36 years between games. That is one of the biggest gaps from one game to another I think I've ever seen, but if you can think of a better example, go ahead and leave me a comment down below. And again, Night Striker is just an absolute special game. It proved that Taito could do sprite scaling every bit as good, if not better in some instances, than a company like Sega, who was synonymous for having those super scalar games. You have the classic Taito branching pathways, you're going to have multiple endings, some are going to be better or worse depending on which route you take. There is a perfect route through the game giving you the best ending as well, and understanding that and actually finding it is some of the fun to be had. But just look at how amazing this game looks even for 1989. This is about as good as it could get for making 2D seem like 3D. The sprites scale so incredibly smoothly, all of the colors are dynamic, all of those sprites with the missiles coming towards you look huge, and the control with a flight stick is just absolutely a straight up 10 out of 10. And this game did use an analog flight stick control, and it felt so good when you're playing a cabinet, but it's honestly a very rare cab today. But a couple years ago I did convert a board over to dual flight sticks just for a friend of mine. He basically wanted to have this made into a JAMA board, so I went ahead and did it for him. And kind of maneuvering around the game, avoiding all the obstacles in certain sections can be just as much fun as shooting everything. That is why I've always insisted Night Striker is just one of those 10 out of 10 Hall of Fame good arcade games, and I'm sure that's why M2 wanted to make a new version of the game as well, because the developers there seem to love the arcades and love bringing them back to public consciousness as much as I love talking about them on the channel. And it makes me so happy to know there's still love out there for arcades in general, because it's one of those genres, as far as gaming is concerned, if you didn't grow up with them, you're probably not that into it anymore. So to know one company is still trying to keep the dream alive makes me a very happy retro gamer for sure. And it really makes me curious what M2 is going to be putting into a sequel for this game, because honestly the base game, the base play style really doesn't need to be touched whatsoever. You just need to make a new version of it with modern graphics, giving you more fun in 2025. But even going through this city stage here where you're flying through all of the buildings over top the city just absolutely looks stunning. And when I say Night Striker has one of my favorite video game soundtracks of all time, I 100% mean it. So I'm going to give you a soundtrack sample for the original Night Striker, and we're going to go into the music from the trailer that was put out so you can kind of hear how they're similar in contrast at the same time. But go ahead and listen, because trust me, this music is an 11 out of 10 any day of the week.
Targets approaching.
Not only does the new soundtrack sound similar to what Zuntata did in the past, but it definitely has a very atmospheric, very swelling kind of orchestral sound to it that really does amp up the overall excitement you're seeing on screen. I'm very curious to hear more about the gear system as well, because they are talking about that. You'll see we're in both 4th gear and 5th gear. I don't know if it's weapon power-ups, I don't know exactly how it's going to work, but that is the fun of anticipating a new game. We're going to find out more details as time goes on, and when we actually get to play the game, we're going to be able to discover every single intricacy about it. And I can't stress enough just how much fun a developer M2 is. They're always working on something amazing, and I definitely cover their work on the channel, whether it's a remake of Haunted Castle, all of the other ports they've done out there, or even bringing a new Night Striker game to the public. Because if you had to ask me a year ago what game I thought M2 would want to revamp, I would have not guessed Night Striker. Even though it is synonymous with one of the best arcade games of all time, it just felt so old from 1989, and it kind of just felt like one of those games that not many people thought about anymore. It would not have been on my bingo card, but I'm happy to be wrong in that instance, because more Night Striker is just going to make me so happy. And I love how all the levels in the original game are dynamic and can feel completely different but similar at the same time. And we seem to be seeing the exact same thing in the Night Striker gear trailer. Different areas that have different colorways, different enemies, different vibes, and just a different feel for being in the same game. And that's something I've always loved about the original. Every single level is the same gameplay style, but you can go from a tunnel to a shrine to overtop a city to fighting a giant plane above you. It just has so much versatility and so much fun to see. It just hits in every way, shape, or form. And the boss battles are a ton of fun as well. It does take a little bit of practice to get good at the game, but it is the type of title that if you want to bear down, you can probably get a 1cc on it in about a week or so would be my guess. And I'm so excited to play Night Striker Gear to see how long the game and how difficult the game is, because I'm assuming that it's going to be a little bit longer and more in-depth than the arcade original, because it is going to be a console release. And if there's any game I really hope sees a physical release on whatever platforms they want to put it on, it would be Night Striker Gear, because it's something I want to put on my shelf. As we move over to this tunnel stage, I just love how good the sprite scaling is, and I can't wait to see how they replicate that in a modern engine, because obviously from the trailer it does look like they're using 3D, which makes perfect sense. But I've always talked about wanting to see more modern scaling games from this perspective. We have stuff like Turbo Outrun Reimagined right now that I've been previewing that's just been hitting every single time, so seeing more of that genre makes me happy. And it's one of those things, I just can't believe that one of my favorite arcade games of all time is getting a sequel so many decades later. This thing is basically old enough to have gone to college, bought a house, have a mortgage, and have a couple of kids that are probably like 5th or 6th grade at this point in time. That is how old Night Striker is, but it doesn't matter how old a game is if it's this good and holds up this well. And again, this video is kind of like a mini review for Night Striker, just to hype you guys up for the game if you've never played it, and for Gear if you want to check it out. But one more soundtrack sample, because again, some of the best music in video gaming, and I'll be right back with more.
Bloody plane approaches. It will join you soon.
Just incredible music. As we come up to the end of Night Striker here, the best part about a game like this is it takes all of 12 minutes from start to finish to do one run through whatever course you want to take. But you'll see here in this ending, at least, I did not take the right course, because it's been a little bit since I played, and I think I made a wrong turn, had to go to one stage versus the other to get the best ending, and that gave me one of the mid endings where you don't really get to solve every single thing going on in the story. But I just can't believe that one of my favorite arcade games again is getting a sequel, especially from a developer as talented as M2. Everything they touch just seems to turn to gold, and I expect the same out of this. I'm not trying to build up too much hype in my own head, I just can't wait to actually find out what's going on. And if there ends up being a demo or a preview, I'll definitely update this video, but really it's just me trying to hype you up to play a game that maybe you've never played before, because you've never checked out the original Night Striker. You might not have known when you saw the announcement from M2 what Night Striker Gear even was, but trust me, if you're even remotely interested and you've never played this game before, go download it, check it out, and MAME. You will have an absolute blast. And if you haven't played it for some years, now is the time to revisit it. It's every bit as good as you remember, if not better. But we are done. I can't wait for Night Striker Gear. 10 out of 10 stoked about it, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.